Let's start by you in just introducing yourself so I don't give too much.
Okay, my name is BC Yusuf. I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I'm an IT security consultant.
Thank you. So you recently bought your house, and I was privileged and honored to be the realtor. Thank you for that opportunity. But if you don't mind sharing with people out there, maybe another person looking to buy like you, what your experience was like working with me and my team, during this period. So let's start from there. What was your experience?
I would say overall, it wasn't as bad as I thought because I'd had friends who had bought, houses in the past, and then hearing from them and what their experience was compared to what I went through with you and your team, I would say that it was much easier than I thought.
Mm. Okay, so when you say easy, help that person out there understand. So I know that the first time we talked about it, I think I sent the link to a promotion to a friend, and she shared it with you. But you later told me that you shared it with someone else because you thought you won't be the person buying that house. So could you could you please tell us a bit about that?
Okay, and when I say easy, what I meant was that you had told me from the get go that it was, you were like, this is a process, it's a very strenuous process. You have to be emotionally ready, to take this step. And then first, when you said that, I kind of recall what my friends had said. So apparently, maybe because I had thought of the worst of it, and then but it ended up being, simpler than I thought. And then, so like you said, someone referred you to me, and then as soon as they sent me the link, I was like, ugh, this is not me. And that's because of what I've heard from people, especially in terms of the capital expenditure when it comes to trying to get a home. So I believed and written myself off as someone that will be able to, get this place. So in my own hindsight, I forwarded it to someone I felt had the capacity or had the capacity to be able to, go ahead with the transaction. But you kept, nudging me, telling me not to just, give up on myself. I think I should give it a try. And also the person that referred me to you even went as far as saying that if you need to co-sign, I was gonna co-sign for you. And then I at first I was like, if people are willing to do this for me, why give up on myself? And that was why I was open to the entire process.
Thank you for sharing that. And so someone listening out there will know there were reasons why you thought you couldn't go on with the transaction. What would you say those reasons were, that kind of gave you the cold feet in the first place?
Number one reason was because I thought I had to have so much money set aside, for a down payment. And then secondly, I believed that my credit score, my credit rating was low, and that wouldn't work.
So let's go to high down payment, which was the thing, which was the first thing you mentioned. Was the lender able to help you with down payment eventually? How did the down payment fear get resolved?
First, there was, I think the lender was very experienced. She had a portfolio of different kind of, home financing options, and kind of she kind of assessed me and also gave me different, how do I put it, she gave me well, it was like giving you a menu of the kind of, home financing option you can do. And I kind of, the one that my mind was yearning to, that really speaks out that I do not need to put it down payment, was the one I went for. And which also miraculous, I don't know how she does it, because I know that, she's good at it. I was able to close on the house without paying a dime.
Okay, hold that thought. Before we get to that, you mentioned previously about credit score. So you mentioned two things that almost deterred you from buying the house. It was down payment and your credit score. So before we go to not paying a dime at closing for down, Let's talk about the credit score. How was that resolved? How come you thought you had a low credit score and somehow you still ended up with a house?
Okay, for I subscribe to the free version of Experian, so I saw what my FICO score was on those, and also sometimes when you get your credit card, monthly statements, they also state different FICO score. So I was going by that. So, but when this process started, and I think they kind of you know consulted three different bureaus, and being that my credit score was even higher than I thought. So if I hadn't even given the opportunity for me to have been assessed, I wouldn't have known that I was not doing so bad when it comes to my credit score.
Awesome. So it took at least trying and hearing back from the lender, finding out where you were to know that you were able to do this, all of that was in your head. Thank you. So let's go back to you didn't pay anything at closing, because I remember that was part of the challenge, part of the fear we were thinking about or you had when we first spoke that, so tell me how did that come, how did you get to that level where you didn't have to go with anything to close?
I think it was a huge thanks to the entire team. One of the things that played the biggest role was you being able to go back and forth on the contract and trying to make sure that the seller had, some substantial payment to do, which was part of the closing. So, because for me, I wouldn't have left to me, I don't know how to negotiate or fight that hard. But even there are times I want to, just accept people like no, 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 we can ask for more, and then it comes up being that the seller kind of agreed. So that that played a huge role in cutting down what my closing cost is, and also the experience from the lender. She knows her stuff. She's a seasoned person. She had put in the figures, and then the figures she put in, hypothetically happened to be the real figures. And it means, her hypothetical figures, were very close to the real figures, and everything worked out fine.
Wow. Wow. So Stella was able to help you with some of the closing costs, and that really helped. Okay. Thank you for that. Let me go back to the next question, which was, so what was the most important factor in deciding to buy your house?
Okay, I think one, I think that was divine timing, and because I was the referral came to me at the point whereby I recently got promoted at my workplace. Because for me, I would have thought that why would I want to take up new expense if I'm still, earning the same thing? That's the first thing. So it was just like the timing was just right for
Hmm.
me. And then before now, I've always yearned, when you long for something, but it feels out of reach. Anytime I drive, I look at new buildings and I was like, oh, one day, I've always, and there's a way life just throws you this, because it was as if it was on my mind and then it just kind of fell on my lap. So I would encourage that whatever it is that we want, even if we cannot get it, just keep it, in your focus. And there's somehow the universe just makes it just, vomit in your way.
Were there things that sealed the deal for you? And I really wanted to, what actually finalized your decision to say, okay, you know what, I'm doing this? After the lender had pre-approved and we're looking, what finalized that decision for you that I'm doing this?
Yeah, the very first thing was both the lender and also the realtor believed that I would be able to do it, you
Hmm.
know, and then believe in the sense that it wasn't like it's not the way you feel when you go to a car dealership or someone or a salesman. This was they really that they were interested in the growth of whatever client is it, because you can imagine a person trying to sell you things and they are like, don't worry, even if it doesn't work now, in future at least we'll give you pointers on how it will work. If it was someone that was after making profits, once they see that maybe something doesn't work for you now and they cannot make their immediate cash, why waste time with you? Even and number for people that were willing to say that, okay, don't, even after checking everything, if it still doesn't work, it will work in the future, and we'll just give you pointers on what you're supposed to do. So that really was a huge was a huge goal for me, because they made me also feel like, let's try this and just be open. It wasn't like we guarantee we're going to do this, and then you start feeling like, oh, is it because these people want to make some money from me? So I felt comfortable with both the realtor and also the lender.
Thank you. So apart from everything you went through, which we can take forever to describe or to explain, but the closing itself, how did it go for you? Were there challenges? Were there surprises that you want to share with someone doing it for the first time, like you did some weeks ago?
I think for me, I wouldn't call it surprise because these were things I had explained from the get go, and I'm talking in terms of the activities in my account. So, I had responded to questions, on some transaction on my account. So all I needed to do close to closing was giving them artifacts substantiating, what I explained before. So, but this would have been different if I had not raised this question, if I had not for me before, we got deep into the process, I had not shared these concerns or questions to my lender or realtor. That would come as a surprise. But all I did was just put evidence and just to back up what all the activities in my account. So there wasn't much of a surprise in that regard.
So I remember I said something like spill the tea. Um, Explain whatever it is that you're doing with your account, what went in, what came out before the lender starts asking you or underwriters. Thank you for that. And then, so did your anxiety go off the roof at any point while you were in this during the process? Were you anxious at any point in time?
Sure, I was extremely anxious because from the get go I thought it was a mistake, and in my mind, I'll be like, maybe someone just going to wake up and say, you know what, we made a mistake somewhere. We are sorry to let you know that you're not a good fit right now. But one, of course, my anxiety was off the roof, and then secondly, there was a lot. It felt like you're signing your life away. There were a lot of verbiages, there were a lot of vocabularies that you have no idea what they're signing, and then sometimes these pages can come in tens and all sorts, but one of the things that helped me the most is I was never rushed or coerced to sign anything. I was given time to go through it. I was given time to ask the dumbest of all questions, and I got responses for all those questions. So I think that played a huge role for me as well.
Thank you for sharing. So, a quick follow-up question. You mentioned that there were a lot of verbiage, new words that you heard. Could you share a few with us for someone coming for the first time to do this as well?
And like, I think the very first one that caught my attention when they said earnest money, I was like,
Mm.
earnest money. They said there was no deposit, and then I kind of, after doing my little research and asking questions, that just means some amount you put down as deposit to the seller, just to let the seller know that you are serious about their property. And this is such that if you go on with the transaction, it's not that you forfeit that amount to get your money back, which seems like a very good deal. So that's that on earnest money. And then I heard a lot about escrow, because my friends that had done their mortgages in the past were like, oh, don't do escrow payment, blah blah blah. You hear all these things, only for me to realize that escrow is in fact your friend, not your foe. Because what the escrow will help you do is, especially for fees or your taxes that are supposed to be annual payment, the escrow will make sure that will help you keep the kind of on a monthly basis, kind of save this fees towards the annual fee, which makes it easy for you to pay when that time comes, instead of you not using escrow, and then at the end of every year it becomes bothersome to be able to pay all this, because it means whatever it is you're earning, you're supposed to take a lump sum, which is going to be very steep every year. So I think that too, I understood what the escrow meant. Also, the APR just gives you an idea of the accumulative percentage at the end of the from the inception to the end of your mortgage, and also all sorts of taxes. Say property tax, mortgage tax, HOA. These are acronyms that they fly around, but there's understanding those and all. For example, HOA, just homeowners association. One would think that if I pay my mortgage and my mortgage is in thousands and my HOA is in hundreds, why would not me not pay my HOA now make them say they want to foreclose my house? How much is the HOA? But these are things that makes you understand that as small as HOA is, it is very important that you pay, because the homeowners association have a right to foreclose on someone's property.
Hmm. All right, that's a deep tip there. HOA can actually make it homeowners association place a lien on your house, and I've heard people lose their house on just about $600, which is not worth it. So thank you for that. So earnest money, APR, HOA, taxes like property tax, escrow is what I got from what you listed. Thank you. At any point were you, out of curiosity, because you said things like you asked questions from the realtor, from the lender, from the team, did you at some point seek external, help, maybe friends, Google? Did you do any extra, digging to understand how the whole transaction went?
I used Reddit. I used Quora. People ask questions. Also, I used the regular Google, and I used the paid GPT. Because it said a holistic view of the question I was asking, so they were of huge help as well.
Thank you. I'm sure someone will learn from that. And then I want to ask again, how did you feel about the neighborhood? How did you choose it? How did you decide this is where I want to live in? And then were able to send all of that to the realtor. What were the factors you looked into to decide where you wanted to buy from? In case someone is wondering, how do I choose?
Yeah, the first and foremost is the amount, your pre-qualified amount. Of course, if you're pre-qualified $100, you will not go to a place where they charge 250, for instance. So first, that would streamline, whatever it is you're going to look at, and then it has to do with also your like things like proximity to work, things like zoned schooling. For those who have kids, you want an area whereby the school zoning system is the standard of school is high. I want to see if maybe the property appreciates. So because I wouldn't want a situation whereby I'm buying a house that costed more in the past, meaning that I might be losing money, in the future. So that will also play a role. I also looked at things like the property taxes on that. Of course, we understand it will increase, but at least in a sensible manner, and also the ambience of the area, the way the area is taken care of, and that's because, and then it also depends on your lifestyle.
Okay, so um the price, let me go to the price. I want to dig a little bit into that. Were you comfortable with your pre-approval range and the kind of house you got within that range? Because I've had cases where people are pre-approved, but the area they are looking at, they couldn't. How do you recommend that somebody is able to find a home that complements that and helps them to meet their goal?
I think first and foremost, be realistic with yourself. How much do you earn, and how much have you set aside to be able to pay? You
Mm,
know, for one, the thing is, it's an emotional journey. When you're ready to buy a house, it means that even without talking to anybody, you kind of have an idea of how much you can cough out for mortgage. So you can you might, if you have the extras after everything you do on a monthly basis, you have an extra, say 3,000. I would not want to go take a house whereby my mortgage will be above that. So first and foremost is being real with how much you earn and how much you can afford, because it's of no use if you end up going above and beyond to get a place, and then paying it on a monthly basis becomes a problem. So that's the very first thing one looks at. And then also it depends on two things also. If I'm someone that feels that all I can do is stay in a place for, say, a certain number of years, and of course we also want to see that it just depends. Okay, if I have, let's say, intention, I want to stay here in 5 years, well, of course I want to make sure that when I'm ready to, bounce away, I would have, at least I would have built some equity, and being able to. It just depends on how you want to plan it, you know. Because why would I want to leave and everything I work for is my mortgage and I don't have anything to save? I think first and foremost is your financial, how do I put it, intelligence and a financial know-how on what you're asking for.
Hmm. Thank you. The neighborhood you chose to settle in. How did you come about picking that neighborhood? Um, what led to where you chose?
Okay. First and foremost, when I was pre-qualified, of course, you the realtor, you have a way of putting this in some kind of notification, So I kept getting notification on houses within the range I was pre-qualified. And then I also visited a couple, at least a handful of places before deciding on which one. And what made me stick to where I am today, first is because of the zoning, the school zone. I did not look at the proximity to my work, and also the kind of amenities I have around me. Just it is, I have a very well taken care of, state park very close to my house. There's a very big hospital nearby, and to a large extent, this is, I just have to maybe drive maybe a mile or 1.5 miles to get to anything I want to rest. So of course I want to be close to such things, and at the same time I want the peaceful and the ambient neighborhood. So this kind of just checks the box in a lot of places for me.
Thank you. Thank you. What would you say to someone out there looking to buy? And this is you just rounding up. How would you encourage another person looking to take this leap of faith to do exactly what you did some weeks ago? And before we go into that, tell us, how long did this process take? And what were you thinking before you started? How long did you think it would take? And realistically, how long did it take? And the second question, the previously asked question, which is, what would you say to someone looking, and then we round up?
Okay, I've heard and I also learned that it takes at least between 60 and 90 days. So I thought that at least I had 3 months, to do all the processing. It was shocking, and it was a pleasant surprise to say that it took just a little above a month.
Mm.
I am today, which was, at some point I was like, this is getting too fast. Is this for real? I kept coming to you, I kept asking, is this for real? This feels too fast. And not knowing that this is something that I should be grateful for, because that means that for some reason it was just my time to own the place.
Hmm.
So it was pretty fast. And then it comes to what I have to, maybe an advice to give. First and foremost, for one to for an individual to consider it was time to buy a house, that is huge. So congratulations first. And then secondly, even after wanting to buy a house, is one, you're not a mortgage officer, you're not a loan officer, you're not a realtor. So I would say put yourself out there to get pre-qualified. Talk to seasoned people in the business to give you pointers, even if it's not the time you're looking at isn't ready. You get information that would help, because that was just like, information is key in all of this. And also, lastly, if you are renting, you want a situation whereby you give yourself some buffer such that you wouldn't accrue any unnecessary charges from your landlord.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip. Um, I'm tempted to ask a very, like, a question from what you said, which is, it took 60 to 90 days. But I remembered that we were done like 2 weeks before closing, and you were asking me, are you sure I should just wait? And I'm like, yes, we're done. You were just waiting for the closing date we signed on the contract. Right now, you're free, but don't do anything, don't buy anything, just maintain status quo. Or you couldn't believe that was happening. One question that came to mind that I wish I won't let go of is getting funds from outside, like getting gifts or somebody sending something into your account. Can you say something about, because I know we had something like that in between.
So I think when it comes to you, a person deciding to get a house, first and foremost, you stick to the rules. Stick to the rules in the sense that because these are information you would be provided at the start of it. Always go back, just to be sure that you are within the rule. They had said that before any activities on your account, you might, if you're not sure, please reach out to ask your realtor or your lender. So even the slightest thing, there was a point I almost called you asking if I can buy groceries.
Hmm.
That's because I wanted to just stick to the rule, and no, I wouldn't want to do anything that I would regret just because how much is it. So I would think when it comes to always whatever it is that you're expecting, the lender that Topper uses and Topper herself would have said that, let them know, and they'll put you through how you can go about that. For me, I didn't even have any for my gift at the end of the day. I didn't use it.
So she had a gift and still didn't use it, right? And then went to closing table without any money.
Yep.
That's interesting. So tell me, how would you say that I did? Would you recommend me to someone, and why?
Okay, first, you did excellently well. I'll give you a 10 out of 10.
Oh
And
my God.
why I will say that is that there are times that we actually do not have anything to talk about. Still call, to check on me. You still call, let me know that it's okay to be, anxious. You being you're interested in my well-being, even outside this transaction. That's number one. And then I can speak, to the lender. The lender knows what she's doing. So and you reflect, and that just gives you a reflection of the realtor. If the lender is superb, and I tell you, the lender was superb. So that's just a reflection of who the realtor is. As for what you should change, I think you should rest more because I think you work too hard. So because I know that you want, and then my spirit just kind of just warmed to you. I was just kind of just I just kind of warmed up to you. You were so very easy to be vulnerable to, because I know I shared things with you that has nothing to do with the mortgage process. And for anybody who wants to, work with an empath, I think I would recommend you to any of my friends any day, anytime.
Thank you. Thank you. And I thank God for that. That means a lot. And it's the reason we do this. I appreciate your time. I have a million questions. I'm sure you can tell from chipping in question after I said we're done. I still have a lot of questions, but I'm grateful, and I hope I can still call you to speak with you from time to time.
Sure, sure, sure.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And bye.